Being out loud. And the minutes will also be taken by city staff. And the co-hosts are made. So welcome to the City of Boulder Police Oversight meeting. We acknowledge the Arapaho, Ute, and Cheyenne tribes, the traditional custodians of the land on which the Police Oversight Panel and the Boulder Police Department operate, and pay our respects to their elders past and present. This is also a reminder to panel members of our agreements that we made during our retreat earlier this year about the way that we treat each other and the way that we go about this business and this role that we're honored to have. I'd like to welcome the public and any potential press in the meeting, and also welcome all panel members. And we also have Farah and Sterling with us as well. I want to acknowledge anything in the moment that have made your week challenging, and just again, thank you for being here. Any members of the public, please use our Q&A function to answer small questions. We will have a public comment section at the end for larger issues. If you would like to submit a complaint, our web address is bouldercolorado.gov/services/police-oversight. And our email address is policeoversightpanel, all one word, at bouldercolorado.gov. These meetings will also be available and posted to our website. And I would like to start our meeting with the approval of the minutes from June 10th.
Motion for approval.
Seconded.
Thank you. Chico, motion seconded.
I abstain.
Thank you, Soledad. Okay, our first order of business is.
Are we voting first for the minutes?
What's that?
Aren't we voting for approval of the minutes?
Chico seconded, so that's all we needed.
We need to vote and have a quorum on that.
So can we have a vote for the approval of the minutes by a show of hands? All for yes. Okay, is that noted? And our first order of business is community updates from Community Engagement and Communications Committee.
I think that's me. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you all and be in the space with you. So community engagement, we had a meeting the other day to talk about our first table at the Pearl Street Art Fest on August 19th, 28th, 20th, and 21st. Not August, July. It's coming next week. I just don't want to admit it. So it's coming up, and we're really hoping that you can all participate and help us table. Selena has put together a beautiful calendar and shifts that I think you're going to share with us, Selena, at some point by email or something, right?
I already sent that out. I sent the link,
Okay.
I think last week. Might have been on Wednesday of last week.
Okay. Sorry, I've already missed it. So like me, please look back at last week, and please check shifts that you can take on. I know that on the 19th I'm not at all available because we're having a launch for a film series that Boulder Surge is doing, and so I will be busy doing that. It's a prior commitment, but I'll be there Saturday and probably Sunday. So I really hope that you can support us in making this a success. So Friday it's from the 19th, it's from 3 to 8 p.m. Saturday it's from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Sunday it's from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I think the shifts are 2.5 hours on average. So thank you for taking this on with us. We'll have a table. There'll be an awning. We'll have brochures. We're finalizing those, hopefully business cards as well. Posters, which we're also finalizing, and then maybe a banner, please. Saying that who we are so that people can see us from a distance. There's another event that we're going to be tabling at that will be in September, on September 7th, which is What's Up Boulder, which is basically an open house for the city of Boulder, the different departments of the city of Boulder. And that will be from 1 to 4 at the East Boulder Community Park. So those are the two things that are planned right now. We're still talking about other things, but that's what we have for now. So looking forward to seeing you in this at Pearl Street Art Fest next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Milan. And I don't know if you mentioned, but will the new flyer be ready by that event on Pearl Street?
It has to be. Because that's basically all we're going to have on the table. So yes.
The intention is that it will be ready in time. I have not heard from the comms person later. I thought she was going to touch base with me this afternoon, but hopefully we will be working on it so that we can make the translation in time for it to get to translation and graphics in time for the event.
And Sherry, I'll get back to you on your comments tonight.
Okay.
Just
Thank you.
Thank you, Milan, and thank you, committee, for all the work. So there will be a new flyer that we'll be able to use in our outreach, and that's something that will just add to our toolbox. So very excited for that.
I think everybody will be happy with it. I hope we worked hard on it.
Our next committee update is from the Legacy Committee.
We were supposed to have had a meeting on the 27th. Unfortunately, work commitments came in the way, so we couldn't meet. So the next meeting we are scheduled on the 25th. I think we should be in good stead by then. Is that not so, Liz? I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, we had a misfire on the meeting this month. But we are working on trying to get our sort of dashboard demo together for next month for you all. We talked a little bit about it last month, but it's just sort of a exploratory tool to look at the data that we had requested related to calls for service and arrests and victim information at Boulder Public School locations. So we have that to share with you all. We're working on some technical stuff to get it into a good kind of get it into good technical shape to share with you, for lack of a better way to put that. But hopefully we'll have that ironed out by next month. And I did wanted to ask just for Sherry or Selena, is there, do you know, have we had any luck figuring out how we might be able to get Power BI access, or do you think Dr. Reinhardt would be my first stop? Is there any thoughts on the next steps for us on that?
My thoughts as you were talking was, now that we don't have nearly as many people out on vacation as we did last week at the city, that's something I just put in my follow-up notes for this next week.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. That's it for us, I think.
But feel free to pester me if you feel like I am not responding.
Sure thing. Thanks.
Thanks, Liz. That's all from us. Victor.
Thank you. Our next item is an update from the bylaw working group, and we have Farah here, and also Soledad to provide an update from that.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Probably with the holiday, you may not have seen my email on Friday, but I did send an email update on Friday and have a brief presentation update for you. Selena, do you mind sharing the presentation for me, please?
Give me one sec here. I did this before the meeting and now I forgot. Okay. Are you guys able to see this?
But that's the last slide.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So just I prepared a brief slide deck for today's meeting to update you on the status of where we're at. We are actually ahead of schedule and in really good shape. Next slide, please. And so alluding to that is kind of where we're at in terms of the timeline. So we have set a goal to finalize the draft by the end of this month and set a goal to send it to the panel to review by August 9th. It's likely it'll be sent before then, but that's kind of the deadline that we've given ourselves. And we'd like to have a full discussion on the draft at the August, I believe it's August 20th, public meeting that we have, and then potentially have it placed on the agenda for a vote on September 9th. So it gives enough time for the panel members to fully read it. It gives enough time for your feedback to be incorporated and then, finalized for that vote in September. Next slide, please. So right now, the draft bylaws consists of 16 articles, and we've completed articles 1 through 7, and it's primarily, I would say, compliance with the ordinance and ensuring that there's consistency between the bylaws and what the current ordinance says. And then obviously, it's very similar to what we did with the ordinance, putting it in an order that makes sense conceptually and in order. And so we added that, we made some changes, but these are the articles that are now complete. Next slide, please. So I appreciate those that were able to attend our public meeting maybe 2 weeks ago and gave us feedback on the order of business, proposed order of business that we put in the draft bylaws. So we took your feedback and updated the order because we think it's important to place an order in the bylaws. Obviously there's flexibility, but at least having a framework for it. And so essentially, I'm just summarizing the feedback that we heard last month was allowing more substantive conversation on topics prior to public comment. And so if the public wanted to comment on what they're hearing before, to add that before then, and trying to find a balance between having public comment before your break. We also got feedback about having community outreach and engagement as a permanent item on your agenda, as it is an expectation for all panel members to participate in whatever your community engagement efforts will be and are. And so we hope this is a reflection of the feedback that you gave us in terms of adjusting where public comment will be on the agenda. Just for those who weren't present at that meeting, we initially had public comment at number 7, right after approval of the minutes. And the feedback was to push it down a little bit to allow community to hear kind of more substantive discussion at the meetings, but also not have it at the end of the meeting, because then, panel members may have to wait 1 or 2 hours before they can speak. And so we're trying to really find that balance. And what I mentioned at that meeting is I've seen it both ways. There are pros and cons of putting it in the middle, putting it at the end. It really just depends on the vibe and the perspective of the particular panel. There's no right or wrong answer. But this is hopefully a good reflection of the feedback that you gave us at that meeting. Next slide, please. So just again, going through the articles that we have put in the draft. We already went through these because these are primarily, well, the 1 through 7 are the ones that are complete. We're still working on the meetings, and the meeting section is very substantive in terms of how you conduct your meetings. We also added language about how to make a motion. Motions need to be how motion should be approved. We put very specific language about voting in there. So that section we're still working on. Next slide, please. And then 9 through 16 is other. We have content and language around it, but they still need some fine tuning. But essentially, I wanted to at least present to you the topics that we're currently working on in terms of articles. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the complaint process and explain that. The committees, we essentially gave the panel the ability to create ad hoc committees, and also made it very clear about the expectation of panel members participating in community engagement and outreach. We added a conflicts of interest section, code of ethics. The official statement from the panel, we tweaked some of the language that we got from Lizzie. And so that is going to be a topic that we talk about at our next public meeting on July 30th. We added language about how to make an amendment to the bylaws and that process. Obviously, working in police oversight, confidentiality is a huge priority. So we made sure to add language in there to reinforce what's already in the ordinance, but also to set the expectation. And then the miscellaneous section just talks about kind of responsibilities the city of Boulder has in terms of the liaison relationship to the panel. Next slide, please. So essentially, and this is a big change, so I want to just take a minute on this. In your current bylaws, you have a pretty significant section on the complaints. And so when I was reading the bylaws, I understood why it was in there, but I also felt pretty strongly that it's not necessary. The level of detail that's in there is not necessarily appropriate for your bylaws. Essentially, when your bylaws is really how you conduct your meetings and operate your business. So I made a recommendation to our subcommittee that we create a complaints manual. So essentially what I did is I literally cut and paste that section in the bylaws and made it a separate document. And then from there, I created an outline, which is, in my mind, kind of like a how-to guide of how panel members should conduct a case review. And so I'm in the process of updating that, cross-referencing that with the general orders, and working through that with the subcommittee. And so essentially, the current panel members might find it helpful, but in my mind, I'm thinking of someone who's brand new, who doesn't know really anything about complaints, that they can have this kind of guide, this manual to show them step-by-step how they're supposed to do, what complaints are, how they're supposed to do their complaints review, what voting consists of, and why panel members vote on the particular cases that come. And so we really thought this was important to have a separate document. So I'm working on that in a parallel fashion with the bylaws, but giving myself a little bit more time. So we are aiming to have that completed in October. However, there are components of your case review process that are appropriate for the bylaws. And so I wanted to specifically identify those for you because I didn't want to leave you with the impression that there's nothing about case review in the bylaws, because there are parts, substantive procedural parts, that absolutely should be in your bylaws. And those consist of when you're voting, obviously needing a quorum, having a roll call vote, participation in case review. Obviously you need 3 members, the timeline, right? Ensuring that you are reviewing your case reviews in a timely fashion, and also something, this is new in there. I'm hoping will have time to talk about it on July 30th, but things that you should consider when choosing to review a case or not. So I'm calling that the case review selection criteria. And so that is something new to everybody, and that we will probably have a lot of discussion on. It obviously will not be an all-encompassing list, but it's meant to give some framework about things that the panel members should be considering when they're choosing to approve whether or not a case review should, whether or not the panel should review a complaint. So again, my last bullet is very, very true. It's very much a work in process. I've started out in an outline fashion. I spent, I'm reading the general order, specifically General Order 120, because it's got to be consistent with that, and just making sure that it's going to be helpful. Because one of the things that I've been thinking about for a while is March of last year, I attended one of your trainings. It was my first opportunity coming into town, meeting with the panel. And I remember there were a couple new panelists that were there, and that was their first training. And then they had their next subsequent meeting. And we talked about how they weren't necessarily sure about what they were voting on and why they were voting on it. So I'm really hoping that this document will explain that, and it'll be part of the documents that will be required for review for new panelists prior to them taking a vote, as consistent with the ordinance and the mandatory training. So again, we're still working on this. I imagine it will continue to be a work in progress and have its tweaks. But I do think that this will be, my goal is that this will be a helpful resource for current and future panel members. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, again, we have our public meetings to talk about the bylaws. We have 2 more left. So on our July 30th, the topics that I would like to discuss is the time allotted for public comment. Currently, your bylaws say 2 minutes, and it allows for discretion for the co-chairs to extend it. I believe there's been a recommendation to extend that to 3 minutes. So having that conversation to see kind of where we land. And also talking about the official statements of the panel, how that process should work, particularly in terms of when we're speaking on behalf of the panel, and also providing some guidance in terms of when panel members are speaking on behalf of themselves. And then if time allots, I don't know, but I would like to at least begin the conversation about the complaints process and answer any questions and get any feedback of things that you absolutely feel like need to be in this kind of how-to guide. And then our last meeting, public meeting, will be August 20th, and that will hopefully to discuss the bylaws as a whole, because by then you will have had the draft for at least a couple weeks. So that's the goal of where we're at. Next slide, please. So now we're here for questions. And you can take it down, Selena, if you want. Thanks. Thank you. Any questions I can answer for anybody, or any feedback? Do you like the placement of where we put public comment better this time around than when we discussed it a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, based on what happened in that meeting and what you showed us today, that looks like a great summary of just, what we talked about, and the fact that, Abigail and Soledad and everyone have been meeting weekly to work on this. I just really appreciate that. So, and just look forward to, the next meeting, which looks like it's coming up pretty soon.
Yep, thank you. Well, if something does come up, obviously, please feel free to email me. If you have any thoughts on the complaint manuals, if you think it's a horrible idea, feel free to tell me that too. But I'm hoping you don't, and that you'll find it as a resource. But definitely, if there's something with the case review process or the complaint process that you just feel is like a thorn, please ping me, because I do want to address it in the manual, because I don't know, because I think most of you know, I've really kept myself very separate from your case review. So I really don't know that much about your case review process. I'm actually learning and studying it and utilizing you guys as a resource. My focus has really been working with you all in your process, right, as a panel. And so you are really my subject matter experts on your process, and I am attempting to memorialize it to make it easier for you. So if there is something that is just like, this makes no sense, why do we do it this way? Please email me, message me, call me, whatever, because I do want to address it if I can in the manual to make sure that the process is clear to you. And if there's something that you're saying, I don't understand this at all, then definitely tell me, because then I will put that in there to help explain it a little bit more. So like today I was working on dispositions because I feel like sometimes we don't necessarily explain all the categories of dispositions. So I was working on that today and also working on the language to make it more simpler to understand the various different ways a complaint can be resolved. So please keep that in mind. I very much welcome any feedback you have on the complaints, because this is just a new idea that was kind of born out of review of the bylaws. So yeah, I welcome any and all feedback on that. And then I'm just going to open it up to my partners in crime on this, Soledad and Abigail, if they have anything they want to add to our process and kind of where we're at.
I think your presentation was so accurate that other than thank you, and that it has been a joy again working with you on this, and it's super productive. I think Abigail is an excellent partner, so we can really get to meaningful discussion very quickly, and meetings are super focused. So yeah, right on schedule.
Yeah. Okay, well, if anything comes up, thank you, Soledad. Please don't hesitate to email me. I'm a little nervous, but excited about your feedback on the draft. But I do think that you will be happy with it and find it helpful. So so we will cross that bridge when we get to it, which will happen very soon. All right, thank you, everybody, and have a great finishing up your meeting. And please don't hesitate to ping me with any questions, concerns, or ideas on the bylaws and the complaints manual. All right, take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Farah. Have a good night. The next item on our agenda is we are going to take a vote to go to a closed session in order to conduct a confidential case review that should last approximately 20 minutes or less. So by a show of hands, who would like to have a closed session?
So we need to make a motion and then a second. So I move for the panel to go to a closed session.
Second.
Okay, and now we vote. Everyone in favor, and then we're ready. Cool.
So to the public and guests, we should be back before 7:20.
Okay. Give me a second here. We said 20 minutes, right?
Yes.
Alrighty. I will see you guys in 20 minutes.
And so we will now do our case assignment status. And then we will, actually, sorry, the case review voting. And let's remind people of the status of what cases have been volunteered for. Some have more than others, you know, it's a load that we all sort of carry here. We just want, you know, sort of balance that out over time. You know, this is a marathon, so just want to remind people of where we're at.
Were you hoping to get the breakdown of people's of how many cases different panelists have volunteered for?
Like in the past, I mean, that showed, you know, what people are signed up for now, just so they know, hey, you're still
Okay.
for this case, but you haven't met yet. So there are a number of cases that people have agreed to sign up for, but have not yet met. So just don't forget.
If there's any way we can update those as well when the cases are actually reviewed so that we know how many have I done this year, but also what do I have pending to know kind of existing workload, that would be awesome. I think
So
it's
just
Highlighted.
change volunteer to completed or something?
yeah, I think it's set up to count reviewed or whatever. There was like one example that we used, but I can adjust the counting based on whatever language you guys use, as long as we're consistent.
So the first case up for voting is M12024-033. This involves 3 officers and a sergeant with a Rule 1 violation, a Rule 4 violation, and multiple Rule 1 violations. Rule 1 is compliance with values, rules, and general orders. And Rule 4 is respect for others. Votes to review this case by show of hands. Okay, and votes. Did you catch that?
I think it looked different when I looked up after
Okay.
I
so
had.
votes-
Yeah, hand up, please.
Votes to review 033.
I now
And-
have 6.
Votes not to review. The next case is 035. This involves 1 officer with a Rule 4 violation, respect for others. I'm sorry. Yes, 035. Votes to review this case. Okay, and
I
votes
looked,
not to review this case.
I think I have 3 yes, 4 no.
And I'm abstaining from this one.
Mhm.
The next case is 036. This involves 1 officer with a Rule 1 and a Rule 4 violation. votes to review 036. Votes not to review 036.
I have 7 no's, I think.
Thank you. The next case is 037. There's one officer with a Rule 6, use of force, Rule 4, respect for others, and Rule 1, compliance with values, rules, and general orders. Votes by a show of hands to review 037. And votes for no. The next case is 038. There is one officer with the Rule 6 violation, use of force, and a sergeant with the Rule 6 violation, use of force. Votes to review this case by show of hands. And votes for no. The next case is 039. Officer 1 has a Rule 1 violation, compliance with values, rules, and general orders. Officer 2 has a Rule 1 violation. Officer 3 has a Rule 1 violation. Votes to review this case. And votes not to review this case. And we did receive 2 complaints that were classified as community inquiries during the time as well.
So for my records, or for my counting, I should say, I have 33, 37, 38, and 39 as the cases that were selected for review by the panel.
Wasn't 39 a no? I might
Oh.
have my,
I'm sorry, you're right.
It's 38.
33, 37, 38.
Yeah, 33,
Yes.
37, and 38.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We will now take a 5-minute bio break.
Okay, then my turn. Welcome back, everyone. So our next item in the agenda is a follow-up on the Chief of Police meeting for the second quarter, no? Assignment?
Yeah,
We
people
need to-
need to,
We need to plug when we're done with the number. Okay, assignment for cases that we agreed on reviewing. So Sherry, I didn't write up all the numbers. So it's 34?
33. 33, 37, and 38.
Okay. Okay. So volunteers to review case 033, 33.
I see Chico, Abigail, and Bill?
Yep. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
got it. Unless, did someone else raise their hand in the meantime? Okay.
Okay, for case 37. Just,
I see Victor, Abigail.
yeah, and a gentle reminder for those that don't have a big load of cases to kind of step up, please.
Victor,
Okay.
Abigail. Am I missing anybody else? And AB? Thanks, AB. Well, thanks all of you.
Nice. Okay, and for case 38.
AB, are you intending to, is your hand still up from the last time, or are you volunteering for this one also?
I think I'm so busy trying to get into my account still. No, I think I was volunteering for the last one. Sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Is this for another case though?
Yeah, 38.
I've only done one, so I really should take some load because I'm one of those people that hasn't done enough. So I just need to know how to do them. So I can take on another one.
Okay.
Okay, and I think, did I see Lizzie's hand or?
Yeah,
Okay.
we need one more. Bill.
I see Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
Full key up. Dude, grab one of these tenders. Oops, sorry.
Okay. Okay, now we're going to the next item in the agenda. Follow-up conversation on the chief of police meeting that we held for the second quarter. Opening the floor for anyone that has thoughts that would like to share with the group about that meeting. How did it go? Any follow-up thoughts? Nothing? Oh my gosh.
I would definitely like to hear from other leaders or other departments. I guess for my passion for me is like the hot team, and so if they could explain a little bit about what the hot team is and what they do. Like we won't get in the past, we actually had like a specialized training where the hot team came to the panel and presented. And so if you don't have that opportunity, having them at that meeting could be a workaround.
Victor, do you want to remind everyone what's the hot team?
So the hot team is a homeless outreach team, which is 2 officers who engage in basically case management and provide transportation and get people into housing with like a non-enforcement approach.
Okay. Milan?
Are we talking about the meeting with Redfern or the training on, like, I'm a little bit confused about.
We're talking about the meeting with interim chief Redfern that we had a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, so Victor, you're asking to have the hot team for the next meeting? Is that what it is?
Yeah, in the past, we've had other folks show up at the chief meeting. And so I'm just saying, we've had the chief one-on-one for multiple occasions, and I'm ready to hear from someone else. That's all I'm saying.
Lizzie?
One thing that I noticed I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
I was just gonna say, I agree. I kind of like the idea of having like the interim chief or chief eventually and like a special guest. So we sort of have a focus area, but can also address general chief questions as well. I like that idea as a format and would love to hear from the hot team.
Sherry.
Thank you. It seemed like something that came up pretty frequently during this past meeting with the chief was that people had like data statistic type of questions. So another possible person to invite would be, Danielle Reinhardt to just walk us through some of like the dashboards that they have available. It just seemed the conversation was more data this time than other times.
Do you think that could be the data conversation we could have like as a guest speaker in one of our panel meetings, and the hot team, because I like it's so staggered that we will only have the opportunity for the rest of the year of having 2 conversations. So
Yeah, I mean, and I think
I don't
that's
know.
actually what's been, recommended from, Erin when she's provided
Mhm.
legal advice is, if you want someone to present on something and to invite them to the meeting because it's already a public meeting. Or, request that we set it up as a training, if it's just an opportunity for panel members to learn from, someone within the department.
Milan.
Seems to me that maybe I should say but we have enough questions for the chief, and I would like to maybe consider doing another meeting with different teams. I know we have a lot of meetings, and that's probably people are gonna say no to that, but I think having the interim chief and the hot team and dilutes the conversation, but that's my opinion. I'm okay with whatever we decide, but I just like to have focused conversations because I think we go deeper.
And Milan, I'm sorry, you're saying that you prefer focused conversation with the chief himself rather than bringing other and diluting the conversation with other groups.
I'm super interested in the hot teams and other teams and their work, especially, because it's really important to know what the different teams are doing for us. It helps us with our understanding of how they work and what they look for. But I would like to have separate conversations rather than try to mix them all up in one.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I do have a question in terms of timing and scheduling, because it's in person. So if there's any challenge there, so we can improve our attendance to those meetings, is anything we can do? Nope. Great. Okay. So no, any other comments? Just want to kind of get a sense of how that went? No? Milan?
I always
Great.
have something to say. I'm sorry. I think it went well overall. I think it was better. The chief really tried to give shorter responses, so that was very much appreciated. It was to the point, and so I appreciated that. It allowed us to have more questions. And regarding our discussion about the hot team and the interim chief, like we meet the interim chief every 3 months or something like that. So I think it would not be asking too much to have another meeting in between with other teams where other teams could present their work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Victor, I saw you raise your hand.
Oh, no, that was a mistake, but,
Oh.
you know, Dr. Reinhardt, I've met him. I know what he looks like. I can pick him out of a lineup. Maybe other people don't, you know, so hopefully to get his attention by having him come to those meetings, I would definitely prefer him over the hot team, you know, having the data doctor show up, tag along with the chief. Someone besides Alistar would be great. They don't have to take up the whole time, but they can just ride shotgun and, you know, be there to answer some questions, which is that idea. So thank you.
Okay.
Alistar is great though. Just saying.
Okay. So why don't we, Sherry, Victor, when we meet next time, we can kind of brainstorm around this, come up with a plan and share it with the whole panel via email. So then we prepare ourselves for the next meeting. That will be in September, but maybe yeah, so we can plan around that. Because I know also, and maybe I'm mistaken, but Lizzie and Tico have been working with Dr. Reinhardt, right? And there's something coming up in there in that committee. So like I don't want to double up. So maybe we have that presentation and then him at the meeting so we can ask like deeper questions or anyhow. So maybe we can elaborate a plan and present it to you, if that sounds good. Victor?
Maybe this is separate, but it's related. But have we had an update on our involvement in the chief of police hiring process? I haven't heard anything since that survey they sent maybe a month ago.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard any updates after that.
I'm meeting with Nuria tomorrow, so I can find out.
Okay. Chico?
Yes, I was just going to add that, yes, you're right. We've had Dr. Reinhardt at our meeting. And one of the ways we could try is whatever resource we're thinking about or experts we want to come to, we can have them as part of maybe the committee meetings that we have. That just lessens having too many meetings because we got other things going on. So that's something to think about.
Okay, point taken, Chico. On that note, can I ask for clarification for the whole panel about the training? So is this happening this Saturday? And so we're confirmed, and what time?
I think 1 to 3.
Isn't it
Yeah.
noon to 3? 1 to 3?
1 to 3 is what it is.
Okay, and this is at the police department building, right?
Right.
Okay.
I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
I sent out an invitation, I believe it was on Wednesday.
Mhm.
I sent it to the panelists. But I added myself on to the invite, so I just want to make sure that all of you received it because I didn't receive it on my end.
Nope.
And if it's the case that nobody received it, then I have to resend it out again because then maybe something happened in the back end.
Mhm.
But it's on the calendar for some reason, but I didn't get it on my end, so I just thought I'd ask.
Did you just do something like in the last 3 minutes with it?
Yeah, I forwarded it over to you just because I thought maybe.
Yeah, it's on, I see it on my calendar now, but I
Okay.
hadn't.
It's not on mine, so then
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'll resend it out to everyone.
Yeah,
Just
it's not on
because
my calendar either.
Okay. I sent it on originally like last week, so
Mhm.
I'll resend it again just because like I said, there's probably some technical issues. So everybody can have it, and all the information's on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Selena.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, cool. So are any other comments so we can move on? Moving on. Great. IPM report. Sherry.
Give me a moment.
Yes, I can fill the time for you. So I'll see you all on Saturday.
It looks like people should be able to see the screen. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, the July 2024 Boulder Police Oversight Panel Meeting, the Independent Police Monitors Report. So information from June 2024 involving case file review. We completed 0 case file reviews in June 2024. There is 1 case file review that we completed earlier and is still pending BPD disposition. And that's MI 2024-008. And as of a half an hour ago, there were 16 cases waiting panel review, and we have 1 scheduled and we are scheduling 2 of them. So they're coming up quickly. Completed cases since the 1st of June 2024. And I realize I need to move all of your lovely faces so I can see the top of my screen. Okay. So MI 2024-005 is 2 officers responded to a trespassing call for a man complainant. He refused to leave private property. After being uncooperative with the officers and ambulance personnel, the officers planned to take the complainant to jail to learn his name. He reported an issue with his lower body and complained that when Officer 1 rolled him over to search and handcuff him, that he was injured. The complainant was transported to the hospital and spoke to Sergeant 1 about his treatment by Officer 1. Allegation against Officer 1 was Rule 4, respect for others, laughed at the complainant and or laughed at his physical disability. The panel recommended that allegation be exonerated, and the department also exonerated that allegation. Officer 1, Rule 6, use of force, twisted the complainant's legs and or kicked his leg into the complainant's back. The panel recommended that this allegation be exonerated, and the department also exonerated that allegation. Officer 1, Rule 6, shoved the complainant's head into a wall. The panel recommended unfounded, and the department also unfounded the allegation. And then for Sergeant 1, there was an allegation of Rule 1, compliance with values, rules, and general orders, that the sergeant failed to document the complainant's complaint. The panel recommended that that allegation be sustained, and the department determined that it was not sustained, but the chief recommended that that sergeant also receive verbal counseling about how to better have handled this case specifically and taking complaints in general. Oops. I can't actually see this. Can someone tell me what the number is on the top of the page? I can't see it because I've got
022.
MI 2024-022.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Officer 1 worked secondary employment in a grocery store when he saw a man/complainant shoplift from the store's hot food bar. Officer 1 followed the complainant, who fled when confronted by Officer 1 for theft. Officer 1 engaged in a foot pursuit and tackled the complainant, who complained about his treatment by Officer 1. Unrelated to this case, Officer 1 resigned from the Boulder Police Department, and the complainant died months after their encounter. The allegations for Officer 1 would Rule 3 truthfulness, lied to the complainant. I recommended that this allegation be administratively closed. The panel recommended that the allegation be unfounded, and the department administratively closed that allegation. Officer 1, Rule 1, unbiased policing engaged in racial profiling. I recommended that the allegation be administratively closed. The panel recommended that allegation be unfounded, and the department administratively closed it. Officer 1, Rule 6, use of force, threw the complainant to the ground and or smothered him and or caused him to black out. Again, I recommended the case be administratively closed. The panel recommended that the allegation be not sustained, and the department administratively closed the allegation. And finally, Officer 1, Rule 1, General Order 200, discretion, arrest standards, and enforcement action, failed to identify himself. I recommended that the allegation be administratively closed. The panel recommended it unfounded, and the department administratively closed the matter. MI 2024-025, a Boulder Police Department detective was assigned to investigate allegations that the complainant's 5-year-old child had access to a pistol. The detective conducted follow-up conversations with the neighbor and the property manager, and then visited the complainant's home with a caseworker. The complainant was initially uncooperative, but eventually spoke separately with the caseworker. Following this incident, other Boulder police officers responded to numerous calls at the complainant's home to address allegations made by his neighbor. The allegations were Rule 1, customer service value, did not return phone calls to the complainant or his wife. Rule 1, General Order 203, failed to document the incident investigation in a report. Rule 4, respect for others, harassed the complainant. Rule 4, respect for others, was accusatory toward the complainant. And Rule 4 was disrespectful towards the complainant because of the complainant's criminal background. I recommended that each of these allegations be unfounded in accordance with General Order 120-1, Section 8, and the department agreed and unfounded each of these allegations, unfounded General Order 120-1, Section 8. MI 2024-027. Officer 1 recognized the complainant as a person with a felony arrest warrant and detained him. The complainant vigorously denied having a warrant, and Officer 1 called dispatch, who confirmed the warrant. Officer 1 repeatedly informed complainant that he was under arrest. When officers reached to grab his hands, the complainant pulled away his arms and tried to avoid handcuffing. Officers 1 and 2 worked together to pry the complainant's left arm from underneath his body while instructing him to put his hand behind his back. The allegations against Officer 1 were a Rule 3 truthfulness, lied to complainant by telling him that he had a warrant for his arrest. Again, for Officer 1, Rule 5, police authority and public trust, arrested the complainant without justification. And finally, Rule 6, use of force, stepped and or need on the head and or neck of complainant. I recommended that each of these allegations against Officer 1 be unfounded in accordance with General Order 120-1, Section 8. And the department also determined to unfound those allegations under General Order 120-1, Section 8. And then there was an allegation against Officer 2, which was Rule 5, police authority and public trust, arrested the complainant without justification. And I recommended that that be unfounded General Order 120-1, Section 8, and the department did unfound it. Additionally, because this was a use of force case, I also did an analysis. So I conducted a review of the overall use of force engaged by Officers 1 and 2, and I determined that the complainant's actions identified him as an active resistor under General Order 225-2, Section C, when he resisted the handcuffing attempt by the officers, and that the officers' actions in response were soft, empty hand controls, and therefore the officers' use of force was within both the policy and recent training that the officers had received. MI 2024-031 is a case where a mother complained that while executing a search warrant, Boulder Police Department officers held AK-47s to the head of her son and his roommate while they were sleeping. Review of the body-worn camera of the incident established that the mother's allegations did not occur. The officers were outside and at the threshold of the residence of the home and shouted for the residents to exit when her son and roommate appeared and then cooperated with those instructions. The PSU sergeant accurately described the incident as captured on body-worn camera to the mother, who was not present during the incident. And upon learning more information, the mother withdrew her allegation. And accordingly, I recommended that this case be administratively closed without creating any allegations against any of the officers who were present. MI 2024-032. Officers from Boulder Police Department and surrounding jurisdictions responded to an active shooter scene. The suspected shooter complainant fled the scene and officers engaged in a foot pursuit. The complainant refused multiple instructions to stop and show his hands. A Boulder County sheriff tasered the complainant, who fell face forward onto the sidewalk, causing significant facial injuries. 2 firearms were recovered from the complainant while he was handcuffed and searched. The complainant and his sister made numerous allegations against responding law enforcement officers that were refuted by extensive video evidence. BPD referred their complaint to the Boulder County Sheriff for further investigation of the taser deployment. The allegations that I identified based on the complainant and his sister's allegations, I identified them against an unknown officer, and there were multiple Rule 6 use of force allegations: kicked the complainant while he was on the ground, assaulted the complainant while he was on the ground, punched the complainant while he was restrained on a gurney, engaged in police brutality, shot the complainant in the leg with rubber bullets, tased the complainant while he was restrained. A Rule 2 allegation that they planted items on the complainant, and Rule 3 truthfulness, wrote false reports. I recommended that all of these allegations be unfounded in accordance with General Order 120-1, Section 8, and the department agreed and unfounded those allegations. And then MI 2024-034. In the spring of 2022, officers responded to a call of a disturbance and spoke with the complainant, who reported that a neighbor tricked him into allowing her to enter his apartment. 2 other people then forced their way inside and stole a tattoo gun. The confrontation spilled into the common hallway, and the complainant was reportedly struck by one of the intruders. Another neighbor who had called the police shared a video of the altercation, and Officer 2 instructed her how to share the video file with the police department. Officer 1 was assigned the case for investigation, and she did not obtain the video evidence and closed the case, citing a lack of probable cause. In the summer of 2023, due to an inquiry by the complainant, the case was reopened, and Officer 1 was verbally counseled by her supervisor for the insufficient investigation. Additional investigation was conducted, and the police department referred the case for prosecution, but the Boulder County District Attorney declined to prosecute, and the case was reclosed. Unrelated to this case, Officer 1 resigned from the Boulder Police Department. The allegations against Officer 1 were a Rule 1 violation of General Order 203, investigative responsibilities and case assignments, that she failed to conduct a sufficient investigation, and Rule 1, General Order 203, failed to arrest and or issue a summons when probable cause for theft was established. I recommended that because she was no longer with the department, these allegations be administratively closed, and the department agreed and administratively closed the case. Regarding the case statistics. For the month of June 2024, I classified 8 cases. 6 of those cases were classified as misconduct investigations. There were 0 serious misconduct cases classified. There were 2 community inquiries, 0 community feedback, and 0 conflict facilitation process. I observed 4 interviews. There were 0 critical incident scene responses. And I deemed thorough and complete 1 investigation. And the Boulder Police Department closed 7 cases. The police misconduct open docket, as of July 1st, 2024, there were 34 cases. 31 of those cases were classified, and 3 of those cases were still pending IPM classification. And regarding our 2023 open cases, we have MI 2023-033 is in chain of command review, and then MI 2023-034 and MI 2023-035 are in chain of command review, and those 2 cases will be reviewed by the panel when they are completed. And an update on the December 17th, 2023 fatal officer-involved shooting. The Boulder Police Department and the Independent Police Monitor completed their Force Review Board meeting on June 26th, 2024. And the community engagement from June 2024 by myself, I was out of the state for half of the month, so it was not a strong month for engagement, but I did have the opportunity to meet with representatives from the community court program that as of, I think, early June, began being located outside of the Penfield Tate Building. So that's something that happens on Thursdays between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock a.m. And that is my report, if anyone has questions.
I do have one.
Oh, go ahead. I'll ask after you.
Okay. So the case, I'm not going to be able to come up with the name, but where it was administratively closed because the officer had left the department, but there was a failure to properly investigate.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, do we or PSU or someone reach out to the complainant to say, hey, we're closing this, but thank you for your complaint. Here are our findings, like, so that people know their complaint was heard, even if it's closed for like personnel reasons?
Yes, we definitely reach out and advise them of what happens. And I believe that person also received a phone call. He was in touch with PSU pretty frequently about this matter.
Okay, thanks.
Sherry, it's taking you back to the first case where we made a recommendation and chain of command didn't agree with us. And there was some verbal counseling that there's 2 cases that involving verbal counseling. So my question is, do we track these? Are these documented? And when does it move from counseling to some written warning or stuff?
Well, this is an interesting case because as you can see, the chief of police identified that the allegation was not sustained. This is the one against the sergeant, correct?
Yes.
I want to make sure we're talking about the same
There's
case.
2 cases that involve verbal counseling. So my question is to do with the verbal counseling process. Is it documented, or are they tracked? Are they documented? And when does it move from just canceling to now something being written down or somebody gets a written warning?
Well, that, when we sustain a case, or sustain an allegation, we look at the officer's history, and if they have previous history, then we use the discipline matrix that's in General Order 120. And in the realm of progressive discipline, then an allegation that if it was a standalone allegation, might get the verbal counseling as you're talking about. If it is something where they've previously had a sustained allegation, that's when you can start moving up the disciplinary matrix.
So we are tracking the verbal counseling, because my issue is you can have somebody perpetually being verbally warned. When does it escalate to something else? That's my question.
And that is some of the information that we are trying to figure out how to track people who get this verbal counseling outside of a sustained allegation.
Okay.
And I am advocating that it is put in the system. Lizzie, did you have a separate question?
No, is my hand still up?
I thought that you and Chico.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. The next item in the agenda is, I think it's still you, Sherry, Saturday, July 13, BPD training. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. I needed that reminder. Well, we already talked about it. So
Yep.
the calendar invites have been resent, it looks like. So I hope to see everyone, or as many people who can make it, at the police department for some additional training. Last time, it was very obvious that people had a lot of hunger and interest in learning more. So I'm excited about this. We were presented with the opportunity to have something about the panel inside Boulder, as a little video segment to showcase some of the work of the panel or panel members. So I'm letting people know that opportunity can be available, and if you're interested in the idea in general or specifically in being involved, reach out to myself or the co-chairs, and we can try to set that up with the city's communications department.
Milan?
Regarding the training on Saturday, it seems like last time there were a lot of questions being asked that were really important, but that ended up making the training not complete. And so I'm wondering if we could maybe share with all the participants to the training, and especially those who are not here tonight, like maybe our agreements or the idea of looking behind them if there are more people with hands raised before they ask their next question.
Yes, and Boulder Police Department has shared with me that they will be keeping the panel more on task to get through the training. But that's why we're having the second training, is because we ran out of time.
Great, thank you.
Just a reminder about ride-alongs. This is a great time of year to do ride-alongs. I know many of you have either done ride-alongs or have them scheduled. So thank you for those of you who have done them. You can always reach out to me, or Bethany is the person at the police department who's going to schedule those. But they definitely need to be done by October 19th for people who did not join the panel this March. And Milan stole my topic about what's up Boulder. So we already talked about that. But definitely as I learn more, I will share more about that, but I would love it if people would put September 7th on their calendar if they're in town, so that we can have, several people who can be at the table and share their experience and interact with members of the Boulder public. I went there last year and it was pretty well attended. And unless there are questions, that's all from me.
Great. So is there any item that were not submitted to the agenda that folks want to bring forward at this time? Anything at all? No? Okay. So then we can go to public comment. So as per usual, what we're gonna do is call in the attendees that are in the, yeah, it's Lynn for now, and we can, Serena, can you help me unmute Lynn, and then we can provide 2 minutes
Sure
for
thing.
public comment?
Yeah. Okay, Lynn, you're unmuted.
These meetings are just so boring. They're so boring. Like the cases that I hear, and I have a case that is really important that still is not addressed. I am disgusted with the Boulder City Police, completely disgusted. And you know this, so I shouldn't waste my breath. You don't care. Nobody cares. Nobody responds back. Officer Hamilton told me to get off my bike to talk with him after I'd waited for 3 hours for a City of Boulder Children's Department employee to take my things from me. And finally, 2 months later, I get the video and I know who the person is, but then they don't allow me to meet with him. I didn't even want to prosecute him. I just wanted to find out what happened. Why did he take my stuff? Me and him. It's between me and him, not the police department, not a $20,000 investigation. This is complete garbage that's going on with the Boulder Police Department. So that's all I have to say. And I'm not going to waste my breath anymore. Just please, just answer to my situation, my case, which none of these cases seem even close to the gravity of it. A city employee, it's disgusting. Done. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. I don't know if anyone wants to respond to that or say something. Okay. So we're at time. We don't have any other members of the public right now. So I guess we can wrap it up. And we'll follow up with, well, I'll see you all Saturday, actually. Then we'll follow up with the next chief of police meeting, okay? Have a good night, folks, and so happy to see you again.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.